This is Whispers of the Watch On Reservation, a free AI novel from novelistai.com, read by Pinch Harmonic 9. Whispers of the Watch On Reservation. The Watch On Reservation spread out beneath the sky, smeared with the fading blush of twilight, the dense forest standing like a silent cathedral around them. Dan slung his pack over his shoulder, each step crunching softly against a carpet of brittle leaves, the sense of pine and damp earth rising with each breath. This place, wild and untouched, felt like a retreat from all that weighed on the city-worn parts of himself. Bill trailed close, his gaze darting upwards, where the first stars flirted with the encroaching night. Bill's life in the daytime blur was a maze of deadlines, short classrooms, noises, and fragile, flickering moments of connection with children who needed more patience than he sometimes had in reserve. The office he clocked into at dawn felt a world apart from here, where the only urgent command was the soft pulse of the forest's heartbeat. These months of labor had been grinding, yet standing amidst these ancient sentinels, he could feel something softening inside, an imperceptible but welcome loosening of the tight knot clutching his chest. Their tradition, which they jokingly labeled Space Camp, was not easily understood by others. It wasn't a reckless escapade, nor a mere retreat. It was their sacred ritual, beneath the boughs, shielded from neon chaos and cacophony. They consumed the wild mushrooms that grew among the moss and leaf litter, ancient gifts that spoke through visions and silence. Dan pulled out the small pouch, holding it beneath calloused fingers, and Bill felt the familiar flutter of anticipation mingle with the cool evening air. With practiced calmness, they measured and shared the offering, their faces etched in the flickering amber light of a campfire they kindled from gathering twigs. Conversation thinned as the spores settled, waves of color and sound beginning to seep at the edge of their awareness. Time elongated, stretched thin like gauze, and the forest tailored itself to their transformed gaze, every leaf a shimmering filament of life, every whisper of wind a secret message. "I always thought there was a kind of language here," Bill murmured, voice low enough to blend with the rustling branches. "Something we forget how to hear in the rush of everything else." Dan nodded, eyes reflecting a horizon that was no longer quite fixed. Between them, the world grew larger and quieter, inviting the weight of invisible wounds softening beneath the canopy. In the slow unfolding of their shared journey, the burdens of daily existence seemed to peel away, replaced by a rawness that was both humbling and fiercely alive. Here in the sacred wild, under a vault of stars, untouched by the city's glare, they carried the fragile hope that this communion, this whisper of the Watch On Reservation, might heal what the ordinary could not. The soft crackling of the fire punctured the quiet expanse, and the moss between their feet seemed to pulse with a subtle breath, as if the earth itself were alive and watching. Dan reached out, brushing his hand against the soft bark of a towering oak, feeling the slivers of age and history threaded through the grain. "It's like the tree remembers everything," he said, voice a hushed reverence. Bill nodded, feeling the truth of it settle deep. Centuries of storms, seasons, and secrets held in silent witness. Colors bled into the darkness, rippling through the undergrowth and spilling upward like liquid prisms. Shapes began to dance, a fox weaving through the branches, a lynx's eyes glimmering like polished gems. Bill's breath caught as he realized he was no longer just a visitor here, but part of the forest's endless rhythm, a note in its sprawling chorus. His usual cynicism dissolved, replaced by a tenderness he hadn't accessed in months. Here was a place untouched by broken promises or deadlines. Here was something whole. Dan's laugh broke the spell briefly, low and warm. "You always get philosophical when we do this," he teased. But the wide ease in his eyes told Bill that this was more than pastime. It was their anchor. "Maybe that's why we keep coming back," Bill murmured. "Because the everyday can't hold us anymore. This is real." The fire dwindled to embers, casting long shadows that tangled with the night's cool breath. Bill pulled his jacket tighter, feeling the comforting press of stillness wrap around him like a cloak. Somewhere distant, an owl called, its hoot echoing through the hollow. For a moment neither spoke. Words felt inadequate here, swallowed by the vastness of unspoken understanding. Mounting a gentle incline, they settled on a rock overlooking a darkened white pine ridge. The stars blazed overhead with uncanny clarity, each one a flicker of ancient light reaching across untold miles. Bill closed his eyes and let the quiet flood in, a balm for wounds too small for others to see, but too persistent to ignore. In the hush of the Watch On, broken things felt as though they might one day stitch themselves whole again. The night deepened, folding the ridge into shadows that pooled between the pines like dark water. Bill opened his eyes slowly, catching the shimmer of starlight tracing the limbs of the trees below. The forest murmured with a language only the truly present could decipher, a susurrus of leaves, the rustle of a distant animal's path, the pulse of life, not rushed but simply breathed. He stretched out his hand towards the night air, as if trying to cradle the invisible thread that connected them all. Dan leaned back, his voice low. "Sometimes I wonder what stories these woods could tell if they chose to speak." His eyes, glossy with renewed clarity, held the kind of quiet that comes from unguarded truths. "Maybe they remember the weight we carry and hold it for us until we're ready to let it go." The fire's embers flickered, casting a dance of light over his face, honest and bare, stripped of the city's chafing masks. Bill smiled wryly, imagining the centuries of whispered grief and joy etched into the bark and soil. "Could be the reason we keep coming here, to unburden ourselves to something that outlasts us." His voice carried the faint echo of hope, tentative but genuine. He could almost feel the reservation's heart beating beneath his skin, a steady rhythm, steady enough to lean against when life's chaos threatened to unmake him. The cold pressed in gently now, nudging them from their reverie. Dan gathered the last wisps of their fire, crushing the glowing coals beneath dirt, while Bill zipped up his jacket, a small shield against the creeping chill. "Space camp," Dan joked softly. "Turns out it's more than just an escape. It's a reckoning." His voice was soft, carrying no bitterness, only the sharp edge of newfound understanding. Bill nodded, a slow smile tugging at his lips. "And maybe, just maybe, one day we won't need it this way, that the world beyond these trees can learn to breathe the same." The stars overhead seemed to pulse in agreement, ancient watchers offering their silent blessing. For now, though, this wind sanctuary held their fractured pieces, cradling them gently until the dawn. As they rose to descend the trail back to their waiting cars, the forest exhaled around them, a living testament of patience, endurance, and quiet wonder. The whispers of Watch On trailed alongside their footsteps, a promise that healing, like the ancient woods, is a slow, deliberate unfolding, always ready to brace them again. The end. This was Whispers of the Watch On Reservation, a free AI novel from novelistai.com, read by Pinch Harmonic 9. Thank you for listening.